Can we avoid another credit crunch? With me now is one distinguished academic who's just been awarded the Onassis Economics Prize for his work in this field. It's Professor Stephen Ross from the MIT School of Management. Professor Ross, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
4 years on into this credit crisis, what have we learned about the causes of it?
I think there are a number of causes that aren't as well understood in retrospect as they should be. We still continue to focus on reforming regulation. We focus on monetary policy. We don't have a serious fiscal policy, as I can see. And some of the lessons we haven't learned are the impact of accounting, the impact of regulation, and just the inability of the system to kind of flexibly respond to the problems that arise.
Do we have the mechanisms in place to stop another crisis from happening?
No. To some extent, crises are inevitable features of the economic system. The interaction between politics and economics really means that you're always going to be on the cusp of something sometime. And big insurance companies plan for a 1 in 100-year event. Well, every 100 years, one of those happens, and maybe even more frequently nowadays. So I think what we really have to do is get over this business of saying too big to fail. You know, the fact of the matter is that a lot of things are too big to fail. You don't want them to fail, and so you're going to have a system in place to deal with crises rather than a system in place that pretends that it can stop them all the time.
So what do you think are the concrete action that needs to be taken now to put that mechanism into place?
Well, one thing I'd like to see is a recognition that when companies fail, particularly financial firms, you need to have some sort of a strike force, some sort of a way of dealing with those immediately. You don't necessarily have to support the shareholders, but you have to go in, maybe even take control of the operation, some way of dealing with it in an efficient fashion so it doesn't become an ad hoc one-off sort of decision.
Is that like an international body or a national body?
National. I'm a big fan of national bodies as opposed to international bodies. I'm a big fan that regulation should be a lot of little separate regulations rather than one big one.
Looking at the world economy as a whole, how long do you think it'll be before we could see growth rates again that we had, the same growth rates that we had before the crisis?
I'm not good at predicting. I'm sort of good at explaining what happened afterwards. And I'm reluctant to predict. I think it's going to be a very long time, though, because I think the crisis only pointed out some structural deficiencies, particularly in the Western economies. So the Western economies have wonderful points of strength. The American economy is great in agriculture. It's terrific at technological innovation. But many of the older industries are things we're just not good at. And yet, if you think that that was something you're going to come back to and continue to do, you're going to have a difficult time making a transition.